I'll be very honest with you, Julie. The powers who are running this world today, the globalists, the Zionists, they want this war. They are the ones who brought about this pandemic. They brought about this in the name of lockdown. They destroyed the global economy. In the name of injecting people with these untested, they have created a massive security hazard for the global population. And they are going to bring about diseases, famine, and wars. I mean, I have to be very blunt here. When you talk about, let's discuss the term they're using, the global reset and the build back better. And the point is, they really want to reset this world, which means destroying the existing political, economic orders, religious orders. And nothing destroys the world like a world war. And they need it. I mean, you will have all these three catastrophic events at play at the same time. I mean, diseases or so-called their remedies, which are worse than the disease itself, wars, which will destroy and change the geography of the world, and then which will be followed by the famines. So the powers that are today, World Economic Forum and the globalists, Zionists, who are actually destroying Europe and the Western world today. You saw what's happening in Australia. You saw what's happening in Europe. You saw what's happening in Canada. The truckers protest and the anti-COVID passport protest is actually bringing down the Western civilization. So they brought in they destroyed Europe in the First World War. They destroyed Europe in the Second World War. And now is the time actually for them to destroy Europe in the Third World War.
Okay, let me come in here. So in the past, the colonialists went into obviously all the black countries, the brown countries, the Middle East, Far East, Africa, etc. And as you said, they re-demarcated borders, etc. That period has passed. You talk about the resetting, and I've heard that terminology as well, the resetting of the globe or the world as we know it. How is this going to serve those powers that be? You allude to the Zionists. We know what they've done in Israel, what a strong, firm grip they've got on Israel, and that is simply because they want their grip in the entire Middle East. They want to rule it. We know that that's no, it's an open secret, so to speak. How are they going to move? We also know that they need wars to produce more and more money. They need wars to produce more and more armaments. So once we go into a third world war situation, and we'll come back to Russia and the Ukraine, once we go into third world war situation, they reset the globe or the world as they deem it necessary to suit their purposes. What's the world going to look like? And the all-important question is the position of us as Muslims, because we know Islamophobia is absolutely rife throughout the world.
You see, Yuli, what benefit did they get out of the First World War? Let's go back into history, because without reading the history, you will not be able to understand the context of the present conflicts. The First World War basically destroyed the existing powers in the world, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Russian Empire, and most importantly, the Ottoman Empire. And it was after, once the Ottoman Empire was destroyed and Palestine came under the British mandate, it was the British government wrote a letter to Lord Rothschild telling him that the British government is now going to hand over this land of Palestine to the Jews, to the Zionists. And they built, the British mandate built itself, dug itself in the Palestine in the next 20 years, but they needed another excuse to bring in Jews from all over the world to settle in Palestine. And for that, they needed another war. The Second World War was actually waged to create that environment. You have heard about the 6 million Jews, and you've heard about destroy the Europe, so that Jews could be convinced to leave Europe and come and settle in Middle East, in Palestine. So they needed the Second World War to create Israel. That's why the state of Israel was actually created immediately after the Second World War, when According to them, the 6 million Jews were slaughtered, and the global powers agreed, since so much crimes have been committed against the Jews, supposedly, so they have to be brought and settled into a Muslim land. And now Israel wants to expand. And there is strong ideology built into this, because now the Zionists strongly believe the time has come for their Messiah to come. I mean, they built Israel on an ideology. The ideology was that they are going to build a new world order. A Messiah would come, a temple of Jerusalem, temple of Zion would be built in place of Masjid al-Aqsa. And from that temple, their Messiah is going to rule the world. Actually, this is the core reason for all the conflicts you see in the Middle East today.
So then the question that begs to be asked is, why would the Western Christian leaders get sucked into all of this? How do they manage to get hoodwinked into all of this?
You see,
and
the
it's still
objective of the First World War, as I said, was to mainly destroy the Ottoman Empire.
right, the Muslims,
But the
mainly
war
Muslims.
started, but the Muslim, destroy the Muslim powers who were actually controlling Palestine. But the war started in Sarajevo when a Serbian shot and killed a prince of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Similarly, the Second World War started when Germany invaded Poland, all European nations. And then everybody joined in, and it went haywire. It went in all directions, and it became a global war. So these Zionists, as I said, they're extremely powerful people who control the Federal Reserve, who control the World Economic Forum, who control the international finance, media, and banking. And Karl Schwab is actually openly on record saying that every government in the world is actually controlled by the agents or the members of World Economic Forum. I mean, Justin Trudeau, for example, is a student trained by World Economic Forum and Karl Schwab. Half of his cabinet is. I mean, Jacinda Ardern of New Zealand is, and most of the European leaders today are actually students of Karl Schwab, and they actually create this global political and economic environment to trigger these conflicts. Putin has been sucked into a Ukrainian conflict. You can see that. He obviously never wanted a war, but once the NATO kept pushing closer to his borders and they started creating biological warfare weapons factories in Ukraine and did not give any guarantee to Putin that Ukraine will not become a member of NATO, it was inevitable that Putin would be sucked into this war. And now they are going to fan it. Now they're going to drag this war. They are going to bring more pressure upon Russia so that it actually gets provoked and gets a bad name. They'll call him, give a dog a bad name, and then kill it, kind of an ideology. They will provoke him to that extent that world will look at him as a madman.